fully understand me. Minister Filipović, Minister Erlić, Minister Fuchs, Vice President of the Croatian Parliament, Mr. Reiner, President of the Committee for Economic Affairs, Mr. Tušek, Madam President, Madam Secretary of the United States Department of Energy, warm welcome to you and all the colleagues, Ministers of Energy that have come here to Zagreb to the fourth PTEC event and the ministerial meeting, the Business Forum, an initiative that stems from the 3Cs initiative and is fully in line with the global priorities discussing the energy policy, energy security, and the climate change. I'm sure that yesterday's Business Forum and today's ministerial meeting will contribute to a substantive discussion on the diversification of energy supply, decarbonization, and clean energy technologies, and that it will also highlight the solutions to overcome challenges of energy crisis and accelerate the green transition. This event is also an opportunity to bring together relevant stakeholders from private sector to work with the key decision makers from governments and to foster energy transition and to remain united and maintain our solidarity in the face of the serious consequences from the war for the world of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. Last Friday, we marked a year since the start of Russia's invasion on Ukraine, version 2022. Croatia condemned this Russia's aggressor position and has extended full solidarity with Ukrainian people, Ukrainian government, and has been completely aligned with the efforts of our partners and allies within the European Union and NATO in providing unwavering support to Ukraine. As a country that has also endured the horrors of military aggression, Croatia fully understands the plight of the Ukrainian people, and we will continue to support Ukraine in political, diplomatic, financial, humanitarian, and military support. We are also ready to help Ukraine in its post-war recovery. Croatia, who has over the past years, after being a war-torn country in the 90s, completed its European and NATO integration in 2009 and 2013, has just on the 1st January of this year rounded this process of deeper integration with its accession to the Schengen area and the Eurozone, thus becoming a part of a privileged club of only 15 countries in the world to share this quadruple membership. We as a country and as well as society and economy have clearly benefited from the membership in the European Union, and our experience can serve as an encouragement to Ukraine and other countries also of the Eastern Partnership who wish to join the European Union, but also to our neighbors in Southeast Europe, all of them deserving and wanting to live in peace and democracy and prosperity. I would like to say that Croatia, in this context of the energy crisis that is, I would say, determining the policies of the international organizations, of governments, states, businesses, has clearly understood that we should be acting together. And I think that the element of unity of the international, I would say, Western countries who share the same values was pivotal in addressing the consequences of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. The energy sector the crisis of the energy sector has hit all sectors of economy. And there is no doubt that we as national governments, as the European Union, had to take unprecedented measures in order to alleviate the consequences of this crisis. We had to avoid the looming social divide, and we had to undertake measures to reduce the inflationary pressures on households' purchasing power. We faced the major geopolitical upheavals and unprecedented energy price hikes throughout 2022. In that context, my government has adopted 3 packages worth 3.6 billion euros to help businesses, to help households, to help those most vulnerable. And in this process, we did not forget literally anyone. We wanted to keep the social cohesion in our society, to avoid the social fracture which would have threatened the functioning of the whole society, economy, and the country. And in that respect, the entire European Union has shown an incredible skill in sending the right messages to the markets. I personally attended a series of regular and extraordinary meetings that we had at the highest level, together with our energy ministers, where we undertaken decisions who influenced the markets, who influenced the stocks, who influenced the traders' behavior, and thus eventually managed to turn the tide of the hike of the prices, helping us, our businesses, and our citizens. I would like to recapitulate a little bit what we did. We have agreed to ban the import of oil from Russia and set a price cap for a crude oil originating or being exported from Russia. With regard to gas, on the basis of the proposals of the European Commission, whose representative I also greet today here at the PTEC Ministerial, we agreed on maximum filling of gas storages during the last year, and Croatia was extremely successful from that point of view. We have reduced the consumption. We have introduced a cap on electricity revenues and solidarity contribution from the fossil sector, and finally a cap on gas prices. We have demonstrated our ability to act swiftly and to act together, thus showing a collective response and determination to quickly reduce our energy dependence on Russia. The whole question all the time was how long was it going to take us, and whether we will be in jeopardy of the energy supplies in this unprecedented context. However, this has not happened. When we look at what the European Union is doing today, it is clear that our priority must be to ensure the strategic autonomy. We've been talking about strategic autonomy for the last couple of years a lot, but perhaps when the idea was launched, nobody thought it was going to be so quickly needed in the energy sector. And therefore, we need to develop our capabilities to strengthen our internal and external security. The lessons learned for us tell us that we must increase strategic investments and ensure our economic competitiveness and reduce our vulnerability, especially in the energy sector. The first requirement of strong economies is energy security. And when we talk about renewable energies, it means securing metals and rare earths, which could soon become the next big geopolitical challenge. This implies that Europe gives itself the means to exploit its own mining resources responsibly and as environmentally friendly as possible. This is also the price to pay for our independence and energy transition. For its part, Croatia can make a significant contribution to the diversification of the supply of energy sources to its neighbors and other countries of Central and Southeastern Europe. Even more, given its energy infrastructure and its unique geographical position, opening Central Europe to the Mediterranean, Croatia can become an energy hub for our region. With long-term vision, we have taken strategic decisions for our energy independence, but which can also benefit our neighboring countries. One of the most far-sighted decisions of my government in our first term was to end a 4 decades-long debate in the Croatia's energy sector, whether we need or whether we do not need the liquefied natural gas terminal on the island of Krk. We have managed to provide 101 million euros from the INEA funds, the European Union funds. The government made a bold decision to add another 100 million. Our companies, Croatian electro-energetic company HEP and the gas company Plinacro, added another, I believe, 33 or 34 million euros. And we invested into the LNG Croatia. We invested into the increased capacities of pipelines. And thus, we have ensured our own energy security when it comes to gas. Not only that, the initial capacity of the terminal, which was 2.6 billion cubic meters, was already fine-tuned to 2.9. And the last summer, in the context of the energy crisis, the government has made a decision to increase the capacity of the LNG Croatia from 2.9 to 6.1 billion cubic meters, thus making an investment which will give us additional capacity to provide gas to our neighbors, especially through the existing pipelines, and they go towards Hungary, of course, and Slovenia. But we are not only discussing with our neighbors or wider neighborhood, Bosnia and Herzegovina, southern connection from the north of Split towards the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also a very strong interest from our neighbors in Austria and Bavaria to ensure that Krk terminal with its extension can provide gas to those countries as well. We are also studying possibilities, and this is something which is important for the energy ministers to know, that at the island of Krk we could easily host an LNG terminal up to 15 or 20 million cubic meters. So there is a huge potential for this part of Europe. Another project which has been in the debate is the Ionian Adriatic pipeline that would connect Greece to Croatia through Albania and Montenegro. The important political strategic aspect of this project is, of course, that all countries at the Adriatic shore are NATO members, and in this context I need not to explain more what such a pipeline would mean. The energy security of Central Europe can certainly be improved by such an Adria pipeline, which would have a large transport capacity, and the Adria pipeline is the one that already with existing capacities can provide enough oil being transported to the refineries towards Hungary, towards Slovakia. So Croatia's infrastructure today already is very developed. It can be increased. We can see the financial investments also from the Repower EU plan. We could use the loans that are available for us through the recovery and resilience mechanism from the European Union Next Generation funds. May I say a few words also about the energy transition, because this is a period where we have three elements. One, dealing with the crisis. Second, using for next couple of decades still fossil fuels, but already looking towards the future, and especially putting an accent on the renewable energy sources and trying to provide the best energy mix for the decades to come. The current energy crisis has shown even more that the European Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package for the green transition have no alternative. A third of Croatia's gross energy consumption and 2/3 of our electricity generation already come from renewables, which is well above the European Union average. We fully support the current direction of the European Union's energy and climate policy, which is more important than ever. In the long term, a faster transition to renewable energy sources is the only way to strengthen Europe's strategic autonomy, while ensuring that we can have cleaner energy. It is not only good for the environment and the climate, but it is also an opportunity for our economy. And it will benefit our citizens, who will be less exposed to high energy prices. When it comes to the transition to renewable and low-carbon energy sources, Croatia can be ambitious and will be ambitious, and we will adopt new technologies more quickly. This is why we are boosting renewable energy, our goal being to have by 2030 more than 2,500 megawatts of additional renewable energy sources. We have already invested significant funds to encourage the installation of wind farms, and now we are prioritizing our solar capacities. Among the measures taken this autumn to mitigate the effects of the energy crisis, we have abolished the value-added tax on the installation of solar panels in order to encourage the transition to low-carbon energy sources. The role of hydrogen and hydrogen technologies in the energy transition is now recognized. This is why we have adopted a national hydrogen strategy until 2050, which emphasizes the advantages of developing the potential of a hydrogen-based economy and decarbonization. Croatia is pleased to take part in one of the Hydrogen Valleys projects, which extends to the entire northern Adriatic region, also including Slovenia and the Italian autonomous region of Friuli-Venezia Giulia. The Clean Hydrogen Partnership has selected this project along with 8 other Hydrogen Valley projects for possible financing following its first call for proposals. Hydrogen valleys contribute to the objectives of the REPowerEU plan by increasing green hydrogen production. And this North Adriatic Hydrogen Valley is a flagship initiative in the Central European Mediterranean region, aimed at facilitating the transition to an integrated ecosystem involving industry, energy and transport sectors, and strengthening cooperation in the research and innovation in order to develop a hydrogen supply chain. Of the 34 partners involved in the project, 6 are Croatian. Those are companies covering the field of green hydrogen production and scientific institutions planning to establish a regional knowledge center. Besides hydrogen, there are also great opportunities in the field of geothermal energy. The Pannonian Plain, which extends over the northern half of Croatia, has a high geothermal potential, well above the European average. The data collected over the last 50 years for the needs of our oil and gas industry now gives us a comparative advantage. We use it today for the benefit of the green transition and the development of renewable energy sources, in particular geothermal energy. Thanks to its great potential, geothermal energy can contribute significantly to the development of our economy. Therefore, we have a large number of geothermal energy projects under consideration, which are likely to become renewable, stable, and independent sources of electricity production, but which have great potential for heating and agriculture, especially in greenhouse production. Geothermal projects, and especially those envisaged in the Resilience and Recovery Plan and the new multi-annual financial framework, that is the period 21-27, form the basis for the future development of Croatia's geothermal energy potential. They constitute an important step for the positioning of our country within the European Union among the leading countries having activated this precious resource at a time when we have growing demand for new sources of renewable energy. The United States, as the world's largest producer of geothermal energy, already produces a large amount of electricity from it. We are therefore determined to continue our efforts to fully harness our geothermal potential and expand its use so that we can provide our citizens with accessible, clean and affordable energy, while ensuring our energy independence and perhaps to serve as an example to others in Europe. We are therefore pleased that our PTEC partners have recognized the importance of geothermal energy in these parts of Europe, and I welcome the creation today at the 4th ministerial meeting of the PTEC of a new working group on geothermal energy. I see it as a strong signal in favor of the development of this source of energy. I congratulate all of you who worked on the declaration and dedication of this project, especially our Ministry of Economy and the Sustainable Development, as well as our hydrocarbon agency that has been extremely helpful in the context of this energy crisis over the past year, but also to the Department of Energy and the Atlantic Council. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to speed up the energy transition process, it is crucial to involve the private sector in these types of projects and initiatives. And therefore, I invite all the companies in the energy sector, as well as other investors, to take a fresh look at these projects, which are all new investment opportunities for future growth and sustainable, ecological, and economically profitable basis. In the current geopolitical context, we should favor projects with high potential and which are at the same time of strategic importance for our energy security and in particular Europe's energy independence. It is up to us to create synergies that will allow us to reap all the benefits of the energy transition in order to make our economy stronger, more resilient and more independent. The energy crisis is far from over, and we must prepare for the next winter. I'm sure that this ministerial meeting, along with the business forum held yesterday and the conclusions that you will adopt today, will help us to deepen our collaboration on energy security, to overcome dependence on Russian fossil fuels, and to ensure the new energy supplies that are as carbon-free as possible. In that respect, I'm sure that we shall remain united, as we have proven over the past 12 months, and that the main challenge, the way I see it politically, economically, financially, from the energy point of view, is the issue of sustainability. Sustainability of Ukrainians to resist and fight for their freedom in patriotic terms, sustainability of the Western support to Ukraine, which should be non-cessant, and sustainability of our governments to do the maximum effort of interventionist policies so as to prevent the social unrests and crises in our societies. These three elements, in cumulative sense, will ensure that we overcome this crisis that none of us wanted or even thought about it 2 years ago, but we have managed to face it boldly and strongly, and I'm sure as the Ukrainians that we shall finally be the winners in this process. Thank you very much, and I wish you a successful meeting.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for setting the tone for today's discussion. Next, we have a series of high-level keynote remarks to further expand on the issues we will be discussing today. First, please welcome again the Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development of the Republic of Croatia, Mr. Davor Filipović.
Minister Plenković, dear State Secretary Granholm, dear Madam Grabar-Kitarović, Vice President of the Croatian Parliament, Mr. Reiner, my colleagues, Ministers Erlić and Fuchs, members of the Croatian Parliament, Mr. Tušek, all members of the Croatian government, my dear colleague ministers from Europe, I would like to extend my greetings to all of you and wish you a warm welcome to the second day of PTEC. It's not easy to give a speech after your Prime Minister gives a speech, so if there's just a little overlap, you will forgive me on that. The experience of the past year has demonstrated an important fact. The Croatia is on the path to become the energy hub in this part of Europe. No one gave us that position, nor did it happen by accident. This is a result of strategic considerations of our own energy security and the result of decisions for which the judgment of time has shown how well-founded they were. Let me remind you that for years we were forced to listen to various politicians and quasi-experts in the pursuit of cheap political points on the topic of LNG terminal on the island of Krk, and make Croatia a hostage to their limited understanding of Europe, the world, and the tectonic processes in the force. With the construction of LNG terminal on the island of Krk, which has been in operation since January 1st, 2021, we permanently ensured a secure gas supply for Croatia. By increasing terminal capacity from 2.9 to 6.1 billion cubic meters of gas, as well as strengthening the gas pipeline network, we will open up space to supply for other countries, thus becoming a clear stabilizing factor in this part of the world. The construction of the pipeline with the aim of transporting additional quantities of gas through interconnections with Slovenia and Hungary, as well as pipeline that would supply Bosnia and Herzegovina, will further strengthen the role of the terminal in the energy landscape of Europe. With the Ionian Adriatic pipeline, which was also mentioned by Prime Minister Plenković, that project, we will give an example of successful cooperation that should ensure gas supply to Southeast Europe, thus stabilizing energy-wise both Montenegro and Bosnia and Herzegovina. The two countries, you will agree, are important for the stability in our intermediate neighborhood, and furthermore, we see additional exceptional opportunities in developing the use of hydrogen, helping the transition to more demanding sectors such as transport. Investments into clean energy technologies will contribute to the transformation of energy sector into a low and, in the future, net zero emission sector, to the development of circular economy, as well as the creation of new jobs in Croatia related to energy sustainability, jobs with a higher added value, that is, higher wages for our fellow citizens who will work in this segment of our economy. We are also active in the fusion program of the European Union. Cooperation with Kingdom of Spain on the construction of Donetsk facility will provide sufficient information necessary for the construction of the first fusion power plant. This is a fantastic example of synergistic interdisciplinary activities between two countries and creation within a perspective of what was considered a very distant future. We do not hide our commitment to nuclear energy, the energy that in the last months was on the European continent given its long-deserved place as a superior source of energy and a way out of many emergencies. We also support an action led by France to include nuclear energy in the list of the energy that does not emit CO2 as a step in the fight against climate change. Croatia not only supports, but is a proactive participant in the EU's climate neutrality agenda. We look with pleasure and responsibility at the low-carbon future. We allocated funds and we are working on ensuring additional financing to speed up processes related to boosting renewable energy production and increasing energy efficiency. We will stimulate the production of electricity from renewable sources by 2030 with the aim of reducing CO2 emissions in the energy sector. We will upgrade the electricity system and ensure all technical preconditions so that we can stimulate the production of electricity from renewable energy sources by 2030. We do not neglect hydro potential and hydropower plants, bioeconomy and geothermal economy, for which we are preparing a development plan until 2030. As can be seen, we are focusing on achieving as many goals as possible by 2030 while also moving to 2050. The world as we know is disappearing. New distribution of relations are emerging, and in that sense today we are preparing intelligently and vigorously for safer tomorrow. We understand that no energy policy is effective if it does not include and involve the population, citizens, as much as possible. That is why we have reduced the tax burden on installation of solar power plants on roofs. Croatia, with 31.7% share of renewable energy in the total energy consumed, almost completely reached the old target of 32% by 2030, significantly exceeding the EU average of 21.8%. This tells us that we are on the very good path. Our national mission until 2030 and 2050 is clear: to be as energy independent, economically resilient as possible, with a clean living space, with citizens to a great degree living and earning through green and digital. In 2023, Croatia is stronger, more resilient and safer than ever, and in 2030 will be an even stronger, even more resilient and even safer state for all Croatian citizens and for all Croatian generations. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a successful second day of PTEC and all benefits from the networking and socializing that it will bring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for your speech. And now the perspective of European Commission we will get from Director General for Energy, Mrs. Dita Juul Jorgensen. Please take the floor.